anywhere else, through anything else, a happiness that is independent of outer conditions. It's not unconditioned, but conditioned only by concentration. It's not dependent upon good food or climate, entertainment or the right relationships, other people or pleasant responses or possessions, all of which are totally unreliable and cannot be depended upon because they are always changing. Concentration is reliable if one keeps practicing. Once verbalization stops for a moment, not only is there quiet but there is a feeling of contentment. The mind has at last found its home. We wouldn't be very happy if we didn't have a home for this body of ours. We are equally not very happy if we don't have a home for the mind. That quiet, peaceful space is the mind's home. It can go home and relax just as we do after a day's work when we relax the body in an easy chair and at night in a bed. Now the mind, too, can take it easy. It doesn't have to think. Thinking is suffering, no matter what it is that we think. There is movement in it, and because of that, there is friction. Everything that moves creates friction.
The moment we relax and rest the mind, it gains new strength and also happiness because it knows it can go home at any time. The happiness created at the time of meditation carries through to daily living because the mind knows that nothing has to be taken so seriously that it can't go home again and find peace and quiet. These are the main reasons why life can never be fulfilling without meditation. It may bring outer conditions that are enjoyable, but the fulfillment that one gets from inner conditions has more scope. The letting go, the renunciation, brings insight, namely the understanding that the ego is constantly wanting and therefore also wanting to think. When the ego stops wanting, it doesn't need to think. When the ego stops wanting, all unsatisfactoriness vanishes. This is why we should meditate. Now we'll look at the how of meditation.
We're going to employ mindfulness of our in-breath and out-breath. This is ideally experienced at the nostrils. Breath is wind, and, as it hits the nostrils, there's a feeling. That feeling helps us to focus at this small point. In the beginning it is difficult to do so. Breath means life, and it is ideally suited as a meditation subject because we always have it with us, and we can't leave it anywhere else. Yet we take it for granted. We never take a good look at it unless we lose it, unless we choke, or drown, or suffocate. Then all of a sudden breath becomes important. But as long as we have it, we never think of it. Yet it means life, which is the dearest thing each one of us has. Breath is directly connected with the mind. When one is excited or in a hurry, the breath goes fast. When the mind becomes calm and tranquil, the breath becomes equally soft and tranquil. When the breath becomes so fine we can't find it, that's the moment when we actually enter into a concentrated state. Having the breath as one's meditation object is the training period for that. It's the only bodily function that is both self-regulating and subject to intention. We can make it deeper, longer, or shallower and even stop it altogether for some time.
There are many other methods of paying attention to the breath. We can follow the breath as far in and as far out as we become aware of it. Don't make the breath anything special, but just follow its course. This provides a wider base of attention. It is not as exact as keeping the mind at the nostrils, and therefore it's a little easier. Or you can use breath plus a word, for instance, Buddha. Bud on the in-breath, ha on the out-breath, breath plus syllable, both together. It's very effective for people to whom Buddha is meaningful. You can also count the breaths, 1 on the in-breath, 1 on the out-breath, 2 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, no less than 5, no more than 10. When you reach 10, start at 1 again. Every time the mind wanders, start at 1. In the beginning it doesn't matter if you don't get any further than 1.
All minds are alike. You don't have to think, I am especially unsuited for this. Who's I, anyway? It's just an untrained mind as opposed to a trained one. Anyone who enters a marathon can run well and quickly if they have trained for it. It is silly to think, I'm useless, I can't run fast, if you haven't trained for it. Counting, saying, Buddha, attention at the nostrils, observation of the breath as far in and out as possible, Find which method you feel most comfortable with and then stick to it. If you have practiced attention on the rise and fall of the abdomen and you have managed some concentration, then continue with that. Keep your legs in a position you can stay in for some time. The back should be straight but relaxed. Shoulders, stomach, and neck should be relaxed. When you find yourself slumping forward, sit up again. The same goes for the head. When you're aware of the head going down, bring it back up. Slumping and letting the head fall forward are postures of sleepiness, or at least drowsiness, the very opposite of meditation. Meditation needs total awareness.
You will probably find that the mind just won't stay on the breath no matter what you try, whether it's Buddha or 1122, or whether you concentrate at the nostrils or follow the breath in and out. The mind just will not do it unless you've been practicing for some years. The thoughts, the projected movie, will be there. The way to work with that is to quickly label the thought, but if that is too difficult, just call it thinking or confusion or remembering or even planning or nonsense. It doesn't matter. The minute you give it a label, you are stepping back to look at it. Unless you do that, you become the thinker and are totally distracted. You are at home worrying about the cat that might have gotten locked in the bedroom or about the children not getting their proper dinner. Whatever it may be, you're thinking and worrying about it. And it's all rationalized in the mind as yes, but I have to think about that. One doesn't have to think about anything when meditating. Life keeps on happening and doesn't need us to think about it. It's constantly arising and ceasing every single moment.
When thoughts arise, look at them, give them a name. Whether it's a correct label or not doesn't matter. Any label during meditation means the thought needs to be dropped. When you have learned to label in meditation, you will be able to label thought as wholesome, profitable, skillful, or otherwise, in daily living also. When you know it's not skillful or wholesome, you can let go of it. You learn to think what you want to think, and when one learns that, one need never be unhappy again. Only a fool becomes voluntarily unhappy. This is the usefulness of labeling in everyday life, but in meditation it means that you have become mindful. This practice is all about mindfulness. The Buddha said, the one way for the purification of beings, for the destruction of unsatisfactoriness, for entering the noble path, for realizing freedom from all suffering, is mindfulness. Knowing, I'm thinking, I'm not meditating, I'm worrying, I'm anxious, I'm dreaming about the future, I'm hoping, wishing, knowing only, then returning to the breath. If you are having 1,000 thoughts, then give them 1,000 labels. That is the way to real mindfulness. Knowing the thinking process as well as the contents of the thoughts. These are the foundations of mindfulness in action, the only way to liberation, when actually practiced.
Feelings of discomfort will arise because the body is sitting in a position it is not used to, but mainly because we are trying to keep the body still. The body never likes to be still for any length of time. Even if you have the most expensive mattress and are able to sleep well, the body moves many, many times during the night. It will not stay in the same position because it wants to alleviate its discomfort. The body is uncomfortable and so it moves, even though the mind is only dimly conscious during sleep. When we sit in meditation, the same thing happens. Discomfort arises. Instead of immediately trying to change one's position, which is our habitual, spontaneous, impetuous reaction to pain, to all discomfort that arises, examine the situation. Become aware of the fact of how this has arisen. There is contact with the pillow, the floor, or with the other leg. From contact comes feeling. From feeling comes reaction. This, by the way, is what keeps us in the cycle of birth and death. Our reactions to our feelings are our passport to rebirth.
There are only 3 types of feeling: pleasant, neutral, and unpleasant. This one is unpleasant, so the mind says, this is an unpleasant feeling. Called pain. I don't like it and want to get away from it. This is how we live every single day of our lives, from morning to night. We either run away from or push away whatever feels unpleasant, or we try to change the outer cause, anything to get rid of discomfort. Yet there is no way of getting rid of it until we have also gotten rid of craving. Whatever we do with our bodies, whichever way we move them, there is sure to be discomfort again. because we're always craving comfort. Watch the sequence: contact, feeling, reaction. This is pain. I want to get away from it. Instead of trying to get away from it, put your full attention on the spot where the feeling is and become aware of its changing nature. The feeling will either change its location or its intensity. You may be able to become aware that in itself it's moving. It's not solid.
Please become aware of the fact that this body does not have suffering, but that it is suffering. Only then can we begin to fathom the reality of human suffering. It is not that we have some discomfort sometimes, but that this body consists of suffering. It can't sit or lie still without becoming uncomfortable. Know the impermanence. Know the unsatisfactoriness, which is inherent in the human body. Know the fact that the feeling has arisen without your invitation. So why call it mine? Learn these lessons from the unpleasant feeling and then move, if necessary, but don't move spontaneously. Move only after having examined why you are doing it. Move gently, mindfully, without disturbing yourself or your neighbor.
Sitting here, gritting your teeth and thinking, I'm going to sit here, even though it's terrible. I hate it, but I'm going to do it, only creates a dislike for the whole situation and for meditation. It's just as much a reaction of the wrong kind as moving spontaneously. One is the greed for comfort and the other is the aversion to discomfort. They are two sides of the same coin. The only thing that makes any sense is insight into oneself and one's own reactions, and that brings results. Work with the feelings and thoughts as they arise. Watch both of them being totally impermanent. They arise and disappear, so why do you call them yours? Have you asked them to come? Surely not. You really came to meditate, didn't you? Yet there are all these thoughts. Do they belong to you? Isn't that suffering? Impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, non-self are the three characteristics to be found in all that exists. Unless we identify them within ourselves, we will never know what the Buddha taught. Meditation is the way to find out. The rest are just words. This is the action.